An underrated Chiefs receiver got some praise from a Chiefs coach that was high enough for me to say he's trending in the right direction to make the 53-man roster, even though it's still early and the pads are yet to come on. And in this video, I'll explain why that is, but not before I share about Kansas really wanting the Chiefs over on their side of the border, a rather shocking update to Chiefs defensive lineman Isaiah Buggs' arrest, and more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, the Chiefs have released the dates for training camp this year, with the first practice being open to the general public on Sunday, July 21st. 17 practices in total will be open to everyone, plus 2 exclusive season ticket member days. These practices are free of charge to the public unless otherwise noted and must be reserved in advance. And it looks like the reservations for tickets will begin at 10 a.m. on Thursday, June 20th, so in a couple days, for season ticket members, then the very next day, June 21st at 10 a.m. for everyone else. And for more details on how to reserve your tickets and all that good stuff, the link is in the description. And even though this really sounded like an ad for training camp, it definitely was not. Next up, Tight End University is officially here, returning for the 4th year in a row from June 17th to the 19th. So you're in full swing at the moment. As a reminder, this was created by 3 of the best out there in George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Dexter Morgan. This is basically a camp for tight ends to get together and learn from the best in the business in order to get better themselves. So, of course, Kelce is going to be out there this week spreading around his wealth of knowledge, and I would think some of the Chiefs tight ends should hopefully be there as well. I know former Chiefs tight end Jody Fortson has attended in the past, so maybe this year we'll see rookie Jared Wiley or maybe even Noah Gray or Irv Smith Jr. And then the state of Kansas is really wanting to entice the Chiefs and Royals to move across the state line after their current leases are up, and we have a bit of an update here. Jonathan Shorman of the KC Star recently reported that in an effort to attract the Missouri teams, they plan on financing up to 70% of the cost of new stadiums for both of them. This plan was actually passed today, Tuesday, June 17th, by the House by a total vote of 84-38, and now moves on to the Senate. I believe they have until like June 30th of 2025 to get something actually approved after amendments and all that take place. And right before I hit export on this video, Harold Kuntz of Fox 4 reported that this already went before the Senate. Okay, it passed in the House earlier, went before the Senate, and it passed with a 27-8 vote. This now opens the door further for the Chiefs and Royals to hold more conversations to build new stadiums in Kansas. The bill will now head to the governor's desk for signature. And while it's very complicated, some of what passed in the House and the Senate today is this. Currently, Star bonds are limited to 50% of costs based on the current law, but they want to get that changed to 70%. The plan so far has, surprise, surprise, divided lawmakers, with people on both sides of the plan doing their best to share why it's good or bad for the state. I mean, it's going to require at least $1 billion of capital investment in the project, which is no small amount, but Dave DeMarco of Fox 4 said that it's going to be an estimated $2 billion cost for a new domed stadium with several hundred acres needing to ensure at least 20,000 parking spaces. Some, however, don't like the idea of a dome. Arrowhead is traditional, known for the weather, playing in the elements, all that. But I would think Clark Hunt would like the idea of hosting a Super Bowl in Kansas City one day. That's going to be impossible without a dome. Plus, having a dome, even just a retractable dome, so you can play in the elements at times, but a dome that could close when the weather is bad, gives them the ability to host other large sporting events, concerts, all that good stuff. Both Chiefs owner Clark Hunt and Chiefs president Mark Donovan said last week they are open to possibilities on both sides of the state line, at least hearing about these possibilities. And again, Kansas wants to do all they can to make it appeasing for the team or both teams to move over to their side of the border. Now, will it actually happen? Only time will truly tell. From here, I want to dive into an update from this recent Isaiah Buggs arrest because in case you missed it, the defensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs was arrested on Father's Day on burglary and DV charges. A little bit graphic here, so bit of a trigger warning. Per a document obtained today by TMZ, Buggs allegedly broke into the house belonging to the mother of his child around 5:28 a.m. on Sunday morning by using a tire iron to get in. He then proceeded to, again, allegedly, drag this lady down a set of stairs, injuring her, and it appears the overall injuries were minor, but still not good. Don't put your hands on a lady. She then obviously said She was going to call the police, so Bugs left and he was arrested in a nearby parking lot. He was then placed on a mandatory hold in jail for the charges, but then was sent back to jail after a judge revoked his bond Monday morning. He has other pending charges with the city already, with some relating to his hookah business, which will now have its license revoked. And then there's also the pending animal cruelty charges from a few weeks ago, where 2 dogs were found abandoned for 10 days on a property that was in Bugs' name. So yeah, innocent until proven guilty, of course, but the question is, how much of this will the Chiefs actually put up with before just cutting ties and moving on from Isaiah Bugs? After all, this is like his 4th run-in with the law in recent months, with of course the most recent one being pretty unforgivable if true. I mean, the animal cruelty charges are also unforgivable, don't get me wrong, but Bugs said they weren't his dogs and he had no idea they were even there on this property that he had already moved out of. This most recent one, though, has him allegedly there on the scene, at the scene. So we're going to have to see how this all plays out. I honestly hope this is not true for Bugs, because just 17 hours before this happened, Bugs took to social media sharing this video and saying he is proud of his growth as a man and a father. So yeah, hope this didn't happen for his sake, especially with that post, his son being there, all of that. Maybe the Chiefs are going to let this legal process play out first before making a move, or maybe they are like, enough is enough, and decide to move on. What do you think they should do? Let me know either way in the comments down below. Next up, Justin Reid hosted a charity golf tournament this week for his charity, and it featured some current and former Chiefs players. Shout out to MVS for rolling through. That was pretty cool to see, along with some Chiefs coaches. And while they were there, we got some interview snippets from some in attendance thanks to Starcade Media, and there were definitely a couple things they captured worth talking about. Defensive backs coach Dave Merritt complimented cornerback Kamal Hadden, saying that he will hopefully be able to contribute on special teams this year, which means he's probably not going to contribute a ton on the defense in year 1. This makes sense for a 6th-round rookie, and hopefully he does enough on special teams to make the 53-man roster. Dave Toub is the guy you've got to impress for that, special teams coordinator Dave Toub, and for some players in particular, he definitely has some pull and input regarding who makes the 53. Well, one player that seems to be trending to make the 53-man roster, at least at this current point in time, is wide receiver Nikko Remigio, because according to Dave Toub,
he's probably our #1 kick returner right now. I'd put him in that category. So he's got a real good shot in my book, to make this team.
Toub continued saying that right now Nikko and McColl are battling it out for that top spot, and then went on to say that he's got to earn enough stripes on offense to get that 5th or 6th wide receiver spot, and that's ultimately going to help contribute to him doing enough to make the 53-man roster. Toub guaranteed, though, that Remigio will at least make the practice squad. So let's unpack this for a second here. On the surface, this is great news for those on the Nikko Remigio hype train. His best way, after all, of making this roster is to earn either the #1 kick return spot or the #1 punt return spot, or maybe both of them. Of course, he then has to provide enough value on offense that the team can justify keeping him on the 53-man roster, because receivers that are in that 5th or 6th spot on the depth chart, you have to contribute on special teams. Seems like that's what he's doing according to Dave Toub, but he also needs to be relied upon when injuries occur in a game to step up and play those roles in the offense. And while he currently has that #1 kick returner spot as of right now, according to Dave Toub, I've got to say Mecole Hardman is going to prove to be tough competition for him. For starters, McColl just got here and in a short amount of time could potentially knock Remigio out of that #1 returner spot. And even if he didn't, Andy Reid could pull the 51% card as the head coach and say, hey, let's roll with Mecole Hardman due to his ability to contribute on the offense. Remigio has shown promise, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day is still unproven at the NFL level. Meanwhile, Mecole has had 3 seasons of over 500 receiving yards, plus can also return punts and kicks. Andy Reid also knows what Mecole can contribute in the offense and how they can effectively use him. To be clear, though, Mecole is not 100% safe considering he signed a veteran minimum deal, but as of right now, I'm going to put the favorable nod towards Mecole Hardman based on his history with the team. Now, if Remigio stays healthy and continues to ball out at training camp and into the preseason, I'll then be ready and more than willing to have a different conversation. All in all, Nikko is right there on the bubble, and I'm definitely intrigued to see what becomes of him. Let me know your thoughts on Remigio considering what Dave Toub just weighed in about him. Do you have him sneaking onto the roster as wide receiver 5 or 6, or do you need more time to see how he does once the pads come on? That's not even factoring in the potential Rashee Rice suspension. If Rice starts out suspended, that kind of takes him out of the equation. And then those that are fighting for that wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6 spot have even more chances of making the roster, at least during Rice's suspension. Anyway, let me know either way in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?